All right, welcome back to Coog Cinema Reviews. Today we're talking about who's the best Spider-Man, right? So we have
Raymond Ruvalcaba.
Captain Volel.
and I'm Leandro Salazar. So let's get started.
What is y'all's connection to Spider-Man, and what do y'all feel is that character? What draws you to this character?
My connection to Spider-Man is very special, in a sense, because ever since I was a little boy, I always looked up to Spider-Man. And as I get older, I actually, like Spider-Man more because I relate to him more. And I actually see what makes him more special as I get older. And I think what makes Spider-Man so special is that he has that human struggle. He has so much, he has like the strongest superpowers ever, but he has that intense human struggle that almost everyone goes through. So I think that's what makes Spider-Man so special.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point, and I relate to that too. I remember in Cuba we had to do these little parties, Halloween parties, not Halloween, but like dress up parties when I was a little kid, and my first a costume was like a Spider-Man costume. It was pretty cool, and I like Spider-Man. Then I stopped liking Spider-Man because I don't want to be like everybody else, but I was like, nah, he's too cool. You have to. But yeah, I think what connects me with him is that he's relatable, and I think Stan Lee, he said once that the reason Spider-Man wears a mask and you can't see any of his body is because it is to play that trope that anybody can be Spider-Man, anybody can be under the mask, and you really get that with that character, going from Spider-Man into Peter Parker and realize that this is a completely different person, and still he's able to do all these great things, and I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. So yeah, I think relatable is really one of the reasons why I like him a lot.
My connection with Spider-Man was actually I was growing up. My dad pirates a lot of movies.
Awesome.
So I grew up watching the movies along with I always grew up with watching pirated through the series. Several Spider-Man series, animated series, came over the years, excluding the original one from the '90s. But I grew up as this character, and I always been fascinated by characters. Especially how Spider-Man is basically not necessarily one character, but technically two characters, but merging into one. You have your Peter Parker side, which basically shows the relatability and of how a regular average person could be, deals with the life of being thrown into being superheroism. And especially during at the time when Spider-Man was around, you have basically, let's say DC, you have Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. They're basically basically out of this world, out of touch, basically gods. That's why you say DC mythos or Marvel mythos, basically, because everyone makes their own stories. But Spider-Man is just a character. It's a relatable character that anybody could. But it's also, for me personally, very important that they portray both sides. Both the Spider-Man, quirky, out this world Spider-Man, and also the relatable, nerdy kid Spider-Man, or nerdy adult Spider-Man.
So, who is y'all's favorite live-action Spider-Man? And y'all can give a brief description as to why. We're just going to go in order, and then after that, y'all can have at it and debate why yours is better.
Let's start off with Toby Mcguire because he's the best. And the reason he's the best is because all those things I listed, he has. He has that human struggle like no other Spider-Man has. And it's portrayed it's portrayed beautifully, We see him struggle with money. We see him struggle with girls. We see him struggle just living as a person. But he still decides to do the right thing. And I just think he captures it the best. Just all parts of Spider-Man, even the cocky aspects of when he's under the mask.
They love me.
That's a good point. My favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield, live action. He's like I said before, just like you, I think relatability is one of the biggest strengths of the character, and but it is really important to point out that, like you said, it's two different characters. So I think first of all with Andrew, I think he's the one that has the best contrast. It's a very stark difference when he's Peter Parker and he's Spider-Man. It's completely a different thing. He's really kind and sweet with his Aunt May and trying to figure things out, working with his dad, all that stuff going on. We'll get to details later. And then when he's Spider-Man, all those problems go away. All his problems go away, and it just becomes about the city which is another important thing about Spider-Man. It's like he's like, what you were mentioning is like he's not like in the God level. He's not a tier thing. He's very like neighborhood, which is like the whole term, but it's what makes him more relatable. He's not dealing with like superhuman things. He's dealing with like very like medial problems, but they're not his. So I think with Andrew, he does the best job, the best performance of both things, and they're very individual of themselves. And another point of why he makes it more relatable is because, at least for me, I don't identify with an apartment at like 16, you know? Like I don't, like with Toby, I don't identify with having like money problems. I live in my house, like that's not real to me. And I know that like that's probably real to Spider-Man and the character created, but like as a child watching, and who the audience is for, because he's supposed to be a kid, like having money problems is not realistic. It's not super realistic for it. I mean, it can be. I'm not saying it's not. But he's in high school. It's literally like too intense for a person like that, and he takes it away from a younger audience to like a more like who it was technically made for, which is like an older audience, and that takes it away from me. And same thing with like Tom having like a billionaire dad. It's like, all right, bro. Like Tony Stark had his dad. It's like I can't relate to that because you have a private jet, you know, and I drive a school bus. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not the same thing. But yeah, that's why I feel like Andrew is like. I don't want to use the term better. I think he performance-wise, he does a really good job.
Personally, my favorite one out of all the live actions is Tom Holland, because besides like valuing, like I believe that Andrew Garfield, I feel like his performance is it'd be great as Spider-Man with the quips, and then you have what's it called?
Peter Parker?
No,
Toby Mcguire?
Toby Mcguire. He has such a great character development, I would say, but I believe that Tom Holland merges the best of two worlds, I could say, because in the basically how they introduce him into the MCU was basically like, oh, he's just like some small guy in a big sea full of like heroes that are already established themselves, like the Avengers and stuff like that. And it's basically he didn't even have to basically step in, but he did anyway. And that's like one of the things about Spider-Man. Basically, he steps in when no one else would. Basically, Spider-Man is basically two characters. You have to make sure those two characters are just basically put perfectly. And on top of that, I'm all about that comic book accuracy. So I vaguely remember how people were mad or angry about the original trilogy with how it wasn't faithful enough. And then they tried to do it with the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew, but it was just too many things at once.
With that being said, how do y'all feel about each other's opinions? Where do you feel like maybe there are holes in in how the other feels about their favorite live-action Spider-Man?
All right, I'll first start with Andrew Garfield. So you said that you liked his contrast, that he was so cocky as Spider-Man, and then he was like a different person.
Yeah.
He was Peter Parker, but I think it's the opposite. I think that the problem with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is that he captures Spider-Man perfectly in the essence of being this cocky guy, with just quips.
Yeah.
The thing is, when he's Peter Parker, he doesn't really change from being this cocky, cool guy. Like, there's not really that difference. Yeah, he's nice Aunt May, but like at the end of the day, he rides skateboards, he kisses his girlfriend in front of the crowd at graduation. He's like this awesome, badass, like cocky kid, that's what Spider-Man is too. But like, there's basically no contrast when he's Peter Parker and when he's Spider-Man. And now for Tom Holland, I remember you said that you heard people say that Toby Mcguire's was not comic accurate. From what I know, people say that Tom Holland's is not comic accurate because of the fact that he, always has these expensive suits and,
I agree with that.
rides on like the private jets. He doesn't have Mary Jane. He has Zendaya. He has Ned.
I'm not complaining about Zendaya, but
I'm not complaining, but you know what I mean. Like if we're talking about comic books, there's no Harry Osborn. What's going on here? You know what I mean?
Not yet.
Yeah, maybe later.
I actually agree on that.
Yeah.
But for me at least, I love
Tom, Toby.
Toby Mcguire. I grew up with that. I grew up with the
I
original.
like all those Spider-Man.
My only problem is he had such an amazing character development throughout the 3 films. The only downside is I would say is how should I put this? I don't like the Spider-Man. I just like Spider-Man it's more like he had the quips and stuff like that. Because basically it only portrayed one character, and that's like I said, it's important to have a balance between the two. And for me, Spider-Man, I feel like the fights, and I'm also a shonen head, so I love fighting and actions. So I'm over here watching the fights, and I'm like, yeah, it's not as fun.
Impressive!
Spider-Man's supposed to be all fun and happy and all that type of stuff. He's an inexperienced, happy kid or young adult even, I guess.
Yeah.
But Toby's a little edgy. But then again, back in the 2000s, it was all about that edginess. So
Yeah. Also, you couldn't make those fun fights in the 2000s. You didn't have that technology to do some of those things like they have now. So I wouldn't blame him too much on that. But what I will say about Toby is that I mentioned it earlier. I don't think he's super relatable. I don't think we understand that, and I also think he's too bland as a character. Both sides. He's the whole analysis of Captain America. He's very stoic, and it's that's not Spider-Man. But that's how Toby Mcguire plays Spider-Man. It's very he's very good and very well intentioned. So when he becomes Spider-Man, he's more heroic than he is fun than he is just trying to do the right thing. Spider-Man isn't supposed to be that mature. Not that he's not intelligent. He's not supposed to be that mature. He has kid problems. So with Toby, because he was 30-some years old and he was playing the character, that's not the problem. But old actors play young characters the whole time. But he didn't find a way to get to that level of having that naivete that Spider-Man would have, because he's supposed to be a child. And with the I don't think he was super cool with the quips.
How'd you do that?
Work out, plenty of rest, eat your green vegetables.
That's what my mom is always saying. I just never actually believed her.
And that stark differences wasn't there for me. He also wasn't comic book accurate, because that biological webbing, that's a creation of the Raimi films. That's not a thing. Which is I didn't even know anything about it at the time. Then I looked into it. But what I will say about Toby is that I feel like Toby would be great if he was supposed to be an older Spider-Man. Then he can I can see Spider-Man growing into that maybe. But he wasn't supposed. It was his origin story, and in his origin story, he was already 4 years into it. You know what I'm saying? At least for me, it felt like he was already too mature, already too proud and too righteous about things. And actually, that is one of the reasons that I like about Andrew, is that he's not righteous, that he makes a lot of mistakes, that he's stubborn, that he dunked on the guy. I know that's cool, but if I was a superhero, I would do the same thing. Because I've been bullied my entire life. This guy's been beating me up the entire time. Yeah, I'm gonna dunk on you, asshole. You're a dick. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do the right thing, and I'm gonna show you you're not gonna get that. But I know he's not supposed to. He's not as nerdy as you would expect him to be as a Spider-Man, as a Peter Parker. But what he does have as a Peter Parker is that he is super intelligent, and I think Toby never had that. He was smart. He was smart. He knew a lot of stuff. But building his suit, Tom did that, But he did do it. But he did it with Iron Man's tech. But Andrew Garfield actually went through the process of growing into his thing, and you could see the intelligent kid that's supposed to be behind it. So I think when we're saying nerdy, we're assuming 80s nerdy, bifocals and stuff like that. And I don't think that's the only way to be a nerd, or be super intelligent. So I don't think Andrew not being the classical stereotypical nerd takes him away from him being super smart, because he didn't have many friends. He wasn't popular. He became cool with his girlfriend. That was it. That was his circle of coolness. He didn't become the most famous kid in school or anything like that. So with that, it's are we taking the comic book words as scripture, or are we going okay, this is the blueprint, can you deliver this? And I feel yeah, he wasn't a super nerd, but he was super intelligent. He was working on his things, and he was trying to be a good person. And then when he became Spider-Man, like, you see the process of him trying to take care of things. I mean, he had to walk out on his girlfriend, like, on a date because it was like a siren, you know, which happens like in all the Spider-Mans. But like, that responsibility that he has to like manage at all times. And I think one of the best scenes, I don't really like, I agree with you, the second movie, not it. Like, and that's another point, is like he didn't have a good script, as opposed to this two had like Feige like created an amazing MCU Spider-Man, which is Tom is amazing at, and he had the Raimi films where you have three films to build a character, which is like a lot of time. He didn't have that look, but as an actor with what he was given, I think he became really relatable. And the scene that I love a lot is the scene in the first one when he walks in late and he forgets he walks in late, he forgets to pick up his aunt, and the uncle's like, you know, your dad believed in responsibility, blah 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 blah. He's like getting on him. Uncle Ben is doing that, and Andrew goes,
"Where is he? Where's my dad? He didn't think it was his responsibility to be here to tell me this himself."
Oh, come on, how dare you?
How dare I? How dare you?
And everybody was like, oh, that was so messed up. Peter Parker would never say that. I'm like, that's bullshit. That's BS, because Peter Parker's a human being. Mm-hmm. And if my dad walked out on me, I would be mad and I would be jealous. Yeah. And I would be upset and angry at him. And I think all his flaws that a lot of people like say he's not comic book accurate on are the things that make him the most human for me. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think you guys can sit here right now and be like, I've never been mean to my parents. I've never been mean to my friends. You have. Yeah. And that's what makes him human. And that's what's the cool spot.
Well, I mean, I feel like at least how Andrew Garfield feels more relatable to you, but at the same time is not like, I understand like the whole like you believe like how like 80s nerd thing, but I feel like Tom Holland, like he portrays like the best, I would say like the best modern day, I would say.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, Andrew Garfield is like, I still feel like he's more of an introvert. More like an introvert than like a nerd, so to speak. I mean, yeah, he shows like his nerdiness of building the suit and all, but I feel like it shows a lot better with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
What's it called? And there's another thing I liked about Tom Holland was, well, I think what's it called? It was basically, I guess, his relationships, I guess, would like basically, although the one thing I didn't like is about how they kind of pushed Uncle Ben in the background. Yeah. It kind of like, I liked how great they basically used Iron Man and other Iron Man as like basically as a mentor in a sense as well.
But wouldn't that disagree with your point of it being comic book accurate though?
Well,
because that's what I'm saying. Like, what are we gonna value? Are we gonna value comic book characters, or are we gonna value what we like? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well.
Because I liked it too. I thought Iron Man was great, but I feel like then if it's what I like, then I would have loved to see Andrew be with Iron Man, or like Toby be with Iron Man. Like, how would that level those characters?
Oh, actually, yeah, that's true.
Because then it became an Iron Man movie and not a Spider-Man, because you liked the fact that Iron Man was there. But if Iron Man was there, would you like Spider-Man?
Well, what do you think? Cause like, yeah, you're actually kind.
What was that word?
No, nothing.
No, I don't want you to think, because like you said earlier, I love all the Spider-Mans, but like Tom has like $1 billion behind his company, like not even like his like Iron Man, like the movie itself costs like millions of dollars to make, and they can go all out, they can create all of that, Like, to be fair, like, even Andrew had more of a chance than Toby, because they didn't even have that much when they were making those movies. So, like, Tom, I think Tom is an amazing MCU Spider-Man. Like, he's good in that world. He fits in that world.
But he's also, not like but he's not like the perfect Spider-Man, like I say.
I think if the movies were focused on him, then he would have killed it, but they weren't focused on him. Same thing with Andrew, like, they weren't focused, like, they were focused on him, but the scripts were awful. Like with Toby, he had movies focused on him, so you get to see him grow, which is what makes him really great, not the best.
Well, yeah, you made a great point with the Tom Holland thing. It's just I think the biggest problem with Tom Holland Spider-Man is the fact that it's the fact that he's an MCU. He has Iron Man always interfering with his life.
Yeah.
Like even in
he has all the superheroes. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like Homecoming, you watch Homecoming, and there's just Iron Man constantly. The marketing and the movie. It's like, can't we just get something about Spider-Man? Like Spider-Man's biggest character development in the movie happens because of what Iron Man says.
Yeah.
It's because
should have been on.
Like he's under the rocks, right? He's pushing it. I remember that scene in the Homecoming, and
Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man.
He doesn't remember Uncle Ben's words. No, he remembers Tony Stark's words.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
We're pushing Uncle Ben back, and we're making Iron Man the highlight. Like number one, Spider-Man owns Marvel. He's number one.
Yeah.
He's the number one superhero in Marvel.
Yes,
but they treat Spider-Man in the MCU like he is a B tier, B class superhero. Like dude, he is your most popular superhero, and you're having Iron Man be in this movie. You don't need Iron Man in the Spider-Man movie. It'll make $billions just with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You don't need Iron Man.
I will say that's more of a company thing, because the reason that happened is because they had to start with Iron Man, because that's the last character they had before they were going bankrupt. So they had to create an Iron Man movie, and then from there they could.
No, yeah, but I'm talking like in Homecoming.
Yeah. Once you had Spider-Man, you should have focused you should have focused into Spider-Man, and they didn't do that at all. That's fair. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and as and think about Toby Mcguire though. As you were saying that what makes Andrew so great is that he's not perfect. He's not black and white. He's not just a good guy.
Yeah.
But I do think that Toby Mcguire is also his movies did have those flaws. Like in the first movie, he was stalking Mary Jane, and that was weird. He was like trying to get a car for her. He was using his powers for bad things. For greedy things. And then we all remember that scene where he fought with Uncle Ben. He said, "You're not my father."
And I know I'm not your father.
Then stop pretending to be.
You say, and then that's the day he got shot. So it shows that like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is also human too. When he got his powers, the first thing he thought of was how am I going to use this to get the girl. That's it. He didn't think about saving.
Which makes sense. Yeah, which makes sense because you were
I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But like it takes something like your uncle getting shot for you to be like, okay, I'm gonna change everything. And that's what makes Spider-Man important.
Okay, so I'm actually starting to remember some stuff from the movie, from the Spider-Man Homecoming. Holland Spider-Man, he's basically going a little bit of an ego boost. He's like, oh yeah, after Civil War, he starts he's like thinking, oh yeah, I'm starting to become one of the big shots. And the big shots, I'm going to be one of the heroes. I'm going to be one of the Avengers. But in the movie, he's kind of like, in a sense, I guess you could say technically straining his relationships. I remember with Liz, I guess, the girl he was trying to be with. He was like I said, human. It's like he's getting very egotistical, like Spider-Man 3 egotistical. A little bit, not that extreme, but like he's getting egotistical. Like, yeah, I'm one of the big people. But after when he what's it called? When he goes against the Vulture, he's getting a little dose of reality because I think I remember Iron Man came by. I think he said that was a little bit the Vulture's a little too low on the payroll.
Yeah.
He's like some small time villain. So he's remembering his roots, I guess you could say, that about how he's basically a neighborhood Spider-Man. He's doing this even though there's other heroes like Thor and Captain America, all heroes out in the world. He's like he a small time hero is basically showing up and stepping up when he really didn't have to. And in a sense, even if Uncle Ben was just thrown in the background, in a sense he's it's still in a sense he's still living up to doing the good thing, where great power comes great responsibility. He's basically trying to get back, basically live by it in a sense,
I agree. I will say, and this is why I want to bring up when he made, they don't focus on Spider-Man though, because the thing is whenever those moments happened, whenever he was gonna go flirt with the girl and he was about to get into the costume to go get a Liz, immediately it was he saw the Vulture fly by and he was like, I can't do this, that's not the right thing. And he immediately had that character growth. It's like they were rushing his process as opposed to letting him make the wrong decision and then someone get hurt, which happened with the other Spider-Mans.
I feel like it's been a couple months now after he started being Spider-Man and after the whole Uncle Ben situation. So I feel like he's already. So it's been like after like the Avengers and stuff like that.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while. I know there's actually going to be a series eventually based on actual Spider-Man.
High school or freshman year.
Yeah, freshman year, high school freshman year, about that stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, but in the movies wise we're focusing on, I feel like, it is more MCU centric because it's like the Marvel and Spider-Man and Iron Man is like their prized possession, at least Disney. But Spider-Man, in a sense, I would say, he's still, in a sense, the Peter Parker, he's still having those character moments of basically still just being like a kid, and he actually looks more like a kid.
Yeah.
And also like actually just being more of a kid, still trying to figure out this whole Spider-Man thing, but at the same time, learning about basically like, being more humble about it, I guess.
Yeah.
He's being more humble about it. And I know the second Spider-Man is Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Yeah, Far From Home. Basically that Spider-Man, he's like basically, okay, after Endgame, it's basically Spider-Man learning about like, okay, he has no Tony Stark anymore, but he has what's left. And he's basically trying to figure out on who this Spider-Man is, like who is going to be his Spider-Man, like what type of Spider-Man he is going to be, basically.
Yeah, I think the thing though, and I'm gonna bring something about Toby. I think the thing is that like he we didn't get that from him though. We didn't get. I mean, that's not on him. That's not on Tom at all. But that's what we're getting, and you cannot like. And it's really lazy of the writers to just be like, well, we all know the story, so we don't gotta play it. But it's like, as an audience, you didn't see Tom's character go through Uncle Ben's loss. You didn't see him do those things and suffer those things. As opposed to like Toby, where you saw him going from a regular kid to Uncle Ben dying to becoming a superhero, or flip that. But like, you get to see that growth. And with Tom, they just threw you into it, and it's really hard to connect to a character you don't know. Even though we know who he is, we don't see how you think he is, so we don't have the connection with him. And then with like, which with Toby, like they did a really good job of that. I mean, like Uncle Ben's death, like that was traumatic. I mean, like it hit him into action, but like. I don't know. I repeat, like, I don't know. I cannot emotionally invest in a person that like again, like I said before, has an apartment that is worried about rent, like, and there's no struggle that I understand. You know what I'm saying? Like he was, I mean, he was older. He was moving out of college and like that. But like, it's just like I personally, the way that he and he was more about his delivery of things. Like he didn't speak like a child. You know, he wasn't young, and like literally, but I literally mean like even his lines themselves, like he didn't speak like a child. He didn't say like dumb things. He wasn't trying to be cool or trying to be a nerd. He was just mature. He was just very like wise in a way.
Yeah, I'll admit that is a good point. I'll begin with like what I do like about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is even in his second movie, you see him still make those mistakes and be affected by Uncle Ben's death in his second movie. And as I said, I wish Tom Holland did that. Yeah. They should have at least mentioned it once.
Yeah, because it's like an integral part of the story.
Yeah, and I guess, with the apartment thing, I guess, I could relate to that because, I have a job and I try to...
I do now, but like at the time when I was watching, I was like, I'm like 12 years old. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Well, obviously a 12-year-old's not going to relate to it. And, I relate to it because I have a job, I'm in college, sometimes, sometimes I want to just like party, But the thing is, that will affect your grades, like he struggles with grades, struggles with money, and as a college student, I just...
we get it,
But I think that part, obviously, that could be subjective to people, like if you don't relate, if you're not in college, you're not going to relate to that.
For sure.
Yeah, and as I said, Andrew Garfield's though, I do like Andrew Garfield's. And Tom Holland's. That I would admit I wish Toby Mcguire did have was the youth. Was that, with Andrew Garfield, I do think he nailed the Spider-Man alter ego the best. But as I said, the youth is just not there with, I would say, with Toby Mcguire. I still think he's the best, but if I had to say one thing he could have added to Toby Mcguire would be to be more youthful, But other than that, I think he nails the relatability, the themes. He nails I think he just nails what makes Spider-Man. So
I have a question for you. This is more like a thing. This is more like a personal thing.
Yeah.
a reason why I like Andrew, besides it like being relatable, is like his emotional journey, and like whenever the second movie was awful. Like I can admit that's not on him, that's the writer's. But like whenever Gwen like died, like I just saw Spider-Man. Like I saw Peter. I saw the problem. The biggest problem of all is like being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man. It's like I have this girlfriend, me Peter Parker, but I'm Spider-Man. I have to fight this guy, and it happened in one scene. And he had to go from Spider-Man to Peter Parker in like less than 30 seconds.
And the reason she died was because
of
his selfishness.
Yeah, it was, but that's
That's what makes Spider-Man.
I feel like that's kind of like the only thing that he could say good about. Well, not like the only like one of
not the fact that he's relatable. He's good as Spider-Man. He's quippy. He's like.
I mean, the quippy part, yeah.
Is that a knife? Is that a real knife?
Yes, it's a real knife.
My weakness, it's small knives.
Just let me go.
Anything but knives!
The relatable part doesn't at the same time equate to like how the character, for me at least, how Spider-Man or Peter Parker should have been portrayed. So there's that part I like, and also of course like the horrific screenwriting of the movie, but.
Because as Spider-Man, what I love about Spider-Man is that like, if you see Batman, you see Bruce Wayne Batman, you're not surprised if Bruce Wayne's Batman. Like, okay, you have this billionaire, good-looking, muscular guy. Oh, he's Batman.
Yeah,
whoa.
great, makes sense. Yeah.
But with Spider-Man, you have this guy who, like, in the comics, he's literally like, he's not just a nerd. He's literally like that student who would eat in the bathrooms. He is that low on the high school social ladder.
Exactly.
He is that much of a nerd, and yet at the same time, he is that badass, cocky superhero that everyone loves. So that's what I love about Spider-Man. He's just.
It's like an
It's just so cool seeing like.
Well, wait a minute. Because Toby Mcguire, when he got his powers, he tried to fight Flash, and he did a backflip.
Help him, Harry!
Which one?
So like he was also just as cocky. The only thing is like, in 2006 when he came out maybe. Like 2006, doing a backflip would have been amazing. But like when you're like in 2012, 14, which is Andrew Garfield's time, he dunked the basketball. He did a lot of more things. But like the rating of what's cool in like 2006 and what's cool in 2021, it changes. So like if you in that case, no movie is accurate because like you gotta adapt for the times that the audience you're playing for.
That
because
part I agree with.
Because like if you look at the comics, they're all fit the bill pretty well because in the comics, if you look at the drawing, it's a chiseled jawline. Like that guy is like he only has glasses and a vest on. Yeah. He's not ugly.
He's not ugly.
Yeah. He just played.
But no, the actors are ugly.
Yeah, so if it's about accuracy, like they not because they're ugly, but like they fail the line because like they're not like in the bathroom meeting. None of them are in the bathroom meeting. Like none of them are rich. Like it's not happening.
I feel like at least for like Tom Holland, he portrays a modern version of like your
2021 modern.
Your 2021 like nerd, modern like high school kid nerd who's like the most relatable out of the nerds.
So after this discussion, what are y'all's final thoughts? Have any of your opinions changed in any way?
My opinion didn't change, but I do have more of appreciation to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man that I didn't have before, and I did see a new light to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I would say my final thoughts is that I do obviously I like Toby Mcguire is the best, but I would say the perfect Spider-Man, in my opinion, would be Andrew Garfield's. You get Andrew Garfield under the mask, and you get Toby Mcguire just as Peter Parker. What I mean under the mask for Andrew Garfield, like just him being Spider-Man. So just that duality, I think, would make the perfect Spider-Man. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Okay. I mean, kind of same here. Like my opinion didn't like super change. What I did get from is I'm gonna have to rewatch again the original, like the Sam Raimi films with Tobey Maguire, so I can see like if after like with a fresh eye I get a new look on it, especially after this conversation. But I think what I feel is that like it's something similar to that. Like if I were to put Andrew in any story, I would put Andrew in Toby's story. I wouldn't change like the Peter Parker. I actually like how he plays it, but I would like to have a story that like actually serves him. because I think he wasn't done justice with the script and with the story they wrote. So I feel like if he was in a place where like they would have given a good script, he would have been okay. And with that, I have a question. We can answer it later. And this is why I think like Andrew is the best. But there's a question that I do have, and we can answer it later. Is like, out of all the actors, who can you put in all the films? And I feel that's what makes Andrew the best. Is that he could be in that story and make it better, and he could be in the MCU and make it better. But Tom couldn't do that story, and Toby couldn't do that story in the MCU.
Well, I think Toby too. Like he,
Think so?
yeah, because he has because when it comes to themes, Toby got all the themes. He got all everything.
Okay.
But
Go ahead. What's your last thoughts?
My last thoughts is like I like personally I'm not really changed that much, but I do admire the Toby Mcguire and the Andrew Garfield a lot more. I still don't like the Andrew Garfield movies, but I do like but I still admire Toby Mcguire. It's been so long since I watched. I've just been watching reviews, but I believe the best Spider-Man is basically the Spider-Man that can take the best of each character. Like how I was trying to say earlier, basically, what's it called? Andrew Garfield. He's like I said, he's basically the best Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man on the mask.
yeah.
He has like the quips and he's like the joking and stuff like that. And if he had a better script, I bet he would have been an amazing Spider-Man. And you had what's it called? Toby Mcguire.
Yep.
I said it right. Toby Mcguire. He was an amazing. I'm not gonna lie. It was an amazing Peter Parker. If he was like 10 years younger, and if he had more what's it called? If he had more quips, he was more fun and more hype and not edgy like all the other movies back, like superhero movies back in the 2000s. I think he would also be like the perfect Spider-Man if he was like his Spider-Man was actually better. But like my Spider-Man, I feel like Tom Holland, for me personally, he was technically the best of both worlds. My only downside is like basically the motivation of him. Basically, because like I truly did agree, and I had a big problem watching the movies, was basically about the Uncle Ben basically just being put in the back, because that was like the driving force, and Spider-Man was his own thing,
Yeah.
but now he's part of the Avengers. But at the same time, I liked how they managed to somehow make basically fit in Spider-Man in this and make him his own thing in the MCU.
Yeah.
Basically just fit. Because even if you have your Uncle Ben, you probably have like your Iron Man. And even though Iron Man is not great, I'm not the perfect replacement for Uncle Ben, because he could never be Uncle Ben for Peter. And even though Uncle Ben is still there in the background, but like he's still like a figure and a mentor to Peter. And being a mentor to Peter, he's basically learning how to be like a true hero, in a sense, you could say.
I do have one last question. With the trailers for No Way Home coming out, there's a lot of speculation about whether Andrew Garfield and Toby Mcguire and Tom Holland will be in the same movie together. How do y'all feel about that hypothetical situation?
That's literally the greatest thing that could happen.
If that happens, I would just not come back to Earth. I would just leave.
I mean, I'm pretty hyped. They managed to make it work for like Into the Spider-Verse, and hell, they can bring like James Jonah Watson, like the original one.
Jonah Watson.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jonah Watson.
They managed to bring him.
Another multiverse. That's his name.
They managed to bring him back,
No.
and that's what made me happy. I didn't care about the end of the Spider. I was just so happy seeing him back. So they managed to bring him back. Of course, they can bring the other two Spider-Mans.
That's what you're excited for. The
Yes, I'm excited.
You don't
for
care
that.
about the other Spider-Man.
I care about him. I care about him.
You're the biggest Jonah Jameson fan.
Yes, I am.
It's the most hyped thing ever.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm just watching the movie, because if I go there with expectations, I'll be sad. So, because if it happened, that'd be amazing. It'll be amazing. It's just
People will die.
People will literally.
The bodies will be dropped.
They will lose their minds. And surprisingly, even though we're having this debate, I don't know about like Toby Mcguire, but I know Andrew and Tom, they are great friends. They're good friends.
Oh yeah.
So
They're British.
They're British, yeah. But it would be amazing. It would be freaking cool. Yeah.
Just, come on. But you didn't have to ask that question.
Exactly.
If they don't do it, that's a big money drop. Cause that would.
Oh my God.
Like, that's just like a money.
I wasn't excited for this movie at first because I just didn't care. Cause I was like after Infinity War, and also like I haven't downloaded like really pirated movies in a while. So like so I was just like I'm behind on a lot of stuff in Disney. But now I stole my cousin's account. But but basically I'm like over here like so I'm kind of just didn't care about like Marvel. But now after like revisiting the Spider-Man, I'm actually starting to be more excited about it.
Yeah.
Especially. What even making even more hype than this was like, what was it called? Well, the Spider-Man in like the Into the Spider-Verse. The second one coming out. I'm more hyped about that than this one.
Really?
Yes. Yes, because I love the original. I love the
That was
first
really
one.
good.
It won an Oscar, my guy.
It did. No, I get you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Coog Cinema Reviews. My name is Leandro Salazar.
I'm Raymond Ruvalcaba.
And my name's Captain Volel.
And we'll see you again in CoogTV.
Yeah.
Go, man, go! I'm kidding.